I found out my wife was sleeping with my boss on a Tuesday, not a Monday that starts with dread, not a Friday that ends with relief, a nothing Tuesday in March when the coffee was still warm in my cup, and I thought the worst thing that would happen was another budget meeting. I'm David, 38 years old, married for 12 years to Sarah, father to twin boys who just turned 9. I used to think I had it all figured out. House in the suburbs, decent job at Morrison and Associates, a consulting firm where I'd worked my way up from junior analyst to senior project manager. My boss, Richard Morrison, was the founder's son, 45, divorced, always bragging about his yacht and his latest conquest. I should have seen it coming, but you never do you? You never think the woman who makes your coffee every morning, who knows exactly how you like your eggs, who still laughs at your terrible jokes after all these years, you never think she's capable of destroying everything you've built together. The discovery was stupid simple. Sarah had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. She was upstairs getting the boys ready for school, and I needed to check our shared calendar for parent-teacher conferences. I clicked on her email by mistake instead of the calendar app. There it was, right at the top of her inbox. Last night was incredible. Can't wait to feel you again. R. My hand started shaking before my brain even processed what I was reading. R. Richard, my boss. Richard, the same Richard who'd been at our house for barbecues, who'd shaken my hand at the company Christmas party while Sarah stood right next to me, smiling that perfect smile I thought belonged to me. I scrolled down, weeks of messages, months, hotel receipts, photos I never want to see again. My wife, my Sarah, telling another man she loved him, telling him things about our marriage, our bedroom, our fights, laughing about me, actually laughing. David has no idea, she'd written. He's so focused on getting that promotion, he barely notices I exist anymore. The promotion Richard had been dangling in front of me for 8 months. Late nights at the office, weekend strategy sessions. All those times Sarah said she understood, that she was proud of how hard I was working for our family. She was proud, all right. Proud that it gave her more time to screw my boss. Sarah? I called upstairs, my voice sounding foreign in my own throat. Can you come down here for a minute? She appeared in the doorway with that same smile, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. Beautiful as the day I met her. Brown hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing my old college t-shirt that somehow looked better on her than it ever did on me. What's up, babe? She asked. The boys are almost ready. I can drop them off today if you want. I turned the laptop toward her, watched her face change, watched 12 years of marriage die in real time. David, How long? I asked. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were already wet. 6 months. 6 months. While I was working myself to death, trying to provide for our family, trying to make partner, trying to be the husband and father I thought she wanted. 6 months of coming home late, to find her already asleep, kissing her forehead and whispering apologies for missing dinner again. 6 months of her saying it was okay, that she understood. Are you in love with him? The question came out before I could stop it. Part of me hoped she'd say no, that it was just sex, just a mistake, something we could fix. Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it hit like a sledgehammer. The boys came running downstairs then, backpacks bouncing, talking over each other about some project due today. Normal Tuesday morning chaos. I looked at them and felt something inside me break completely. How do you explain to 9-year-olds that their world just ended? How do you tell them their mother chose someone else over their family? Dad, can you help me with my math homework tonight? Jake asked, tugging on my sleeve. Of course, buddy, I managed. Go brush your teeth. Mom will drive you today. After they left, Sarah and I sat at our kitchen table like strangers, the same table where we'd planned our future, where we'd helped the boys with homework. where we'd shared thousands of meals. Now it felt like a courtroom. I want him to fire you, she said suddenly. I'm leaving David. I'm taking the boys. That's when I understood. This wasn't guilt or remorse. This was strategy. She'd already made her choice, and now she was cleaning up loose ends. I was the loose end. You think he's going to leave his cushy life for you? I asked. You think you're special? He loves me. He loves that you're married. He loves the thrill. The second you're available, you'll be just another divorced single mom. She stood up, arms crossed. You don't know him like I do. I know him better than you think. That night, after the boys were asleep, I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to fight for someone who'd already walked away, but I wasn't going to roll over and die either. I spent the next 3 days at work acting normal, smiled at Richard during meetings, laughed at his jokes, pretended I didn't know he was texting my wife from across the conference table. The man who was destroying my family, and I had to sit there and call him sir. But I was watching, learning, paying attention in ways I never had before. Richard Morrison was a good salesman and a terrible businessman. He'd inherited Morrison and Associates from his father, but had no idea how to actually run it. Most of our biggest clients came from relationships his dad had built in the 70s and 80s. Richard was coasting on legacy and charm, but the foundation was cracking. I started staying late. Not for him anymore, but for me. I dug into files I'd never had access to before. Contract details, financial statements, client communications. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Morrison and Associates was hemorrhaging money. 3 major clients had already started shopping around for new firms. 2 others were behind on payments because of disputes over deliverables. Richard had been cooking the books, moving money between accounts to hide losses. The company that employed 47 people and supported dozens of families was 6 months from bankruptcy, and Richard was spending company funds on hotel rooms with my wife. I documented everything, every questionable expense, every missed deadline, every client complaint that had been buried or ignored. I built a case like my life depended on it, because in a way, it did. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. I'd moved into my brother's spare room after Sarah made it clear I wasn't welcome in my own house anymore. The boys thought I was traveling for work. We'd agreed to tell them together when the divorce papers were filed. I was picking up more clothes when I found Richard's tie in my bedroom. My bedroom, hanging on the back of the chair where I used to sit and put on my shoes every morning. That's when something shifted. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was calculating. I called Marcus Chen, one of our biggest clients, a guy I'd worked with for 4 years who trusted me more than he trusted Richard. We met for coffee the next morning. Marcus, I need to tell you something about Morrison and Associates, I started, and about your account specifically. I showed him the documents, the inflated billing, the subcontracted work that Richard was charging full rate for, the upcoming deadline that Richard had no plan to meet because he was too busy screwing my wife. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "What do you want me to do about it?" "Nothing right now. Just keep it in mind." I had the same conversation with 5 other clients over the next 2 weeks. Careful, professional, just making sure they had all the information they needed to make informed decisions about their business relationships. Then I scheduled a meeting with Richard's father. William Morrison was 82 and supposedly retired, but everyone knew he still held controlling interest in the company. He'd built Morrison and Associates from nothing in 1978, back when a handshake meant something and your word was your bond. He had no idea his son was running his legacy into the ground. "Mr. Morrison," I said, sitting across from him in his downtown office, "I need to show you something." I laid it all out, the financial mismanagement, the client complaints, the upcoming losses. The affair was never mentioned. This was business, and business was what mattered to William Morrison. His face got redder with each page. When I finished, He was quiet for 5 minutes. "How long have you known about this?" he finally asked. "I started noticing problems a month ago. It took me this long to put together the full picture." "And why come to me instead of going to Richard directly?" "Because Richard is the problem, sir, and because I think you deserve to know what's happening to the company you built." William Morrison had built his fortune on knowing when to cut his losses. He'd survived 3 recessions, 2 market crashes, and a hostile takeover attempt. He didn't get to 82 by being sentimental about family. "What would you do," he asked, "if this was your company?" "I'd make Richard a generous severance offer and bring in new leadership before we lose any more clients. The relationships can be saved, but not with him in charge." "And who would you suggest for new leadership?" "Someone who understands the clients, someone they trust, someone who can rebuild what's been damaged." He studied me for a long moment. "Someone like you?" "Someone exactly like me." The transition happened faster than I'd expected. William Morrison didn't waste time once he made a decision. Richard was out by Friday, officially taking a leave of absence to pursue other opportunities. In reality, his father had given him a choice: resign quietly with a severance package or face fraud charges for the misappropriated funds. Richard chose resignation. I was named interim CEO the following Monday. The staff was shocked, but not surprised. Everyone had seen Richard's performance declining, even if they didn't know the personal reasons behind it. The first thing I did was call an all-hands meeting. "I know there are rumors about changes coming," I told our team. "I want you to know that our focus is on stability and growth. We're going to rebuild client relationships, deliver exceptional work, and make sure everyone in this room has job security." Then I called each of our major clients personally, apologized for recent service issues, outlined our plan to improve, promised personal attention to their accounts. Marcus Chen was the first to sign a contract extension. The others followed within 2 weeks. Sarah called me that night, the first time we'd spoken since I'd moved out. "You got Richard fired," she said. "No greeting, no pretense." "Richard got Richard fired. I just documented it." "You ruined everything." "I saved 47 jobs, including yours, by the way, since you won't be getting alimony from a bankrupt consultant." She hung up. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Sarah got the house. I bought her out at market value with my new salary. She got half of our assets, which were considerably more valuable now that I was running a profitable company, instead of watching one collapse. She did not get Richard. He disappeared after the severance ran out, leaving her with 2 kids and a mortgage she couldn't afford on her part-time job. Last I heard, she'd moved back in with her parents. The boys live with me now. Joint custody became full custody when Sarah couldn't maintain stable housing. They don't know the whole story. They just know Mom and Dad couldn't live together anymore, and Dad's job got much better around the same time. They're proud of their old man. Jake tells his friends his dad runs a company. Tommy wants to be a businessman when he grows up. They have no idea their father learned everything he knows about strategy from watching their mother betray him. Morrison and Associates became Chen and Morrison Consulting when Marcus decided to invest and become a partner. We've doubled our client base in 18 months. William Morrison still comes in once a week, mostly to play chess with me and complain about kids these days. "You know," he told me last month, "Richard always thought this business was about schmoozing and golf games. You understand, it's about trust. Trust, the word that used to make me flinch. I don't date yet. The boys need stability more than I need romance. But I'm different now, harder in some ways, but clearer too. I know what I'm worth. I know what I won't accept. I know the difference between love and convenience, between loyalty and habit." Sometimes I wonder if I should thank Sarah. If she hadn't betrayed me, I never would have paid attention to Richard's failures. I never would have stepped up. I never would have discovered I was capable of more than I'd ever imagined. But then I remember what it felt like to read those emails, to see my wife's words about loving another man. to explain to my sons why they had to pack bags every other weekend. Some lessons cost too much to be grateful for. The company is thriving, the boys are happy. I sleep well at night, knowing I earned everything I have through work, not inheritance or charm or stepping on other people. Richard tried to start his own firm last year. It folded in 6 months. Turns out when you remove the family name and the inherited clients, all you're left with is who you really are. Sarah remarried last month, a decent guy who works at the bank, from what I hear. I hope he makes her happy. I hope she's learned something about the cost of betrayal. But mostly, I hope he never has to learn what I learned about the woman he married. The boys asked me recently why I work so much, why the company is so important to me. I told them the truth, in words they could understand. Sometimes, son, the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened to you, but only if you're smart enough to see the opportunity in the pain. Jake looked at me with those serious eyes he gets when he's thinking hard. Is that what happened with you and Mom? Yeah, buddy, that's exactly what happened. They hugged me then, these two perfect boys who exist, because I once loved someone who destroyed me. The only good thing that came from those 12 years, and somehow, they were enough to make it all worth it. I still wear my wedding ring sometimes, not because I miss being married, but because it reminds me of who I used to be. A man who trusted without verifying, who assumed loyalty was automatic, who thought love was enough to protect him from the people closest to him. That man built a comfortable life but never reached his potential because he was too busy trying to make everyone else happy. This man built an empire from the ashes of betrayal. I learned that revenge isn't about hurting the people who hurt you. It's about becoming so successful, so strong, so undeniably better that their absence from your life becomes the best gift they ever gave you. Richard destroyed my marriage, but he also freed me from a woman who was never really mine. He took my wife, but I took his legacy. He wanted to humiliate me, but instead, he handed me the tools to surpass him in every way that matters. The last time I saw him was at an industry conference 6 months ago. He looked older, smaller somehow. His suit was off the rack instead of custom tailored. He was working the room like he used to, but now he was the one begging for contracts instead of granting them. He saw me across the room and started walking over. I could see Sarah had told him about my success, probably hoping he'd be impressed, maybe even proud. David, he said, extending his hand, congratulations on everything. Really, you've done amazing things with the company. I looked at his outstretched hand, thought about all the times I'd shaken it in meetings, trusting him with my career while he planned to destroy my life. Thank you, I said, but I didn't take his hand. I learned from the best. He stood there for a moment, hand still extended, realizing I wasn't going to shake it. The people around us started to notice the awkwardness. Well, he said, dropping his hand, maybe we can grab lunch sometime. Talk about old times. I don't think so, Richard. I'm pretty busy these days. He nodded and walked away. I watched him approach 3 different groups of people, getting polite but cold responses from each one. Word travels fast in our industry. Everyone knew why he'd left Morrison and Associates. Everyone knew why his new venture had failed. That night, I called my boys to say goodnight. They were at Sarah's apartment, their voices excited about some movie they'd watched. Dad, when are we coming home? Tommy asked. This weekend, buddy. We'll build that tree house we talked about. Will you teach us about business stuff? If you want to learn. We want to be like you when we grow up. After I hung up, I sat in my home office, looking at the framed photo on my desk. It's from last Christmas, Just me and the boys, building a snowman in the backyard. We're all laughing at something Jake said, probably a joke about the snowman's crooked nose. It's not the family photo I plan to have on my desk, but it's the family I ended up with, and they're worth more than everything I lost. People ask me if I'm angry, if I hate Sarah for what she did, if I wish things had turned out differently. The truth is, I'm grateful, not for the pain. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but for the clarity, for learning who I really was when everything I thought I knew about myself was stripped away. Sarah thought she was leaving me for a better life. Instead, she freed me to build a better life than either of us had ever imagined. Richard thought he was taking something from me. Instead, he gave me everything I needed to take something from him. They both underestimated the man they betrayed. That was their first mistake. Thinking I'd stay broken was their second. I built my success on their assumptions about my weakness, and every morning when I walk into my office, when I see my name on the door, when I know that 47 families depend on the company I saved, I remember that the worst day of my life was also the first day of my real life. Some people are born great, others have greatness thrust upon them, and some have greatness forged in the fire of betrayal, tempered by loss, and sharpened by the absolute clarity that comes from losing everything you thought you needed. I'm the third kind, and I wouldn't trade that lesson for all the peaceful marriages in the world.